Is this visible? Yeah, please take down this. So these are the two comparators, so non-inverting and inverting comparators. So the threshold voltage has been applied across this inverting terminal. This is 2/3 of VCC. So the pin number 5 is continued to this threshold. We have a control. The pin number 5 is a control input. So in order to make this 555 timer work like an R-stable or monostable, we need to have an additional component across this pin number 5. Okay, this is controlling the work yours. So this pin number 5 and the 6 I've already told, this is threshold. Pin number 6 where you're going to apply the input. So if at any part of the time your circuit cannot operate beyond this threshold, so it will be just, see, 2/3 of VCC, right? So just little above than 2/3, that's what the maximum voltage you're going to get across this terminal 6. So trigger, it initiates, so it cannot be below this trigger voltage. So the trigger voltage here is 1/3 of VCC. So it will change just below this, it will start changing, not more than that. Okay, only that's what this trigger and threshold. Pin number 2 and 6, the 5 is control, 8 is VCC, 4 is reset, 3 is output. This Q has been connected to the discharge transistor. So this terminal is the pin number 7. So the name for this, yeah, discharge, that's it, this discharge. So this pin number 1 is the ground. Yeah, this is the circuit, 555 timer IC. Just copy down this quickly, or else you can just take a snapshot. Later you can take down this. What you'll do? Sorry, one change here. Please correct this now. I think this is upwards. Sorry, inwards. Just correct that. I think I've done wrong that. Sorry, we just correct this transistor. This is the V reference. It is internal. It's not going outside to provide this V reference. So this is the reset. Just you can take the snapshot of this. Later you can write down this. So you should know why this is called as a 555 timer. So how many pin terminal, how many terminal device it is, and what is the internal details of the 555 timer. So is it done? Can I erase this? Yeah. Now upon this, we'll try to make this as an relaxation or stable multi-vibrator. But I can't directly write these things as it is because it will be little tedious in order to make this circuit. So we try to extract the one which we have done in the earlier, because this discharge transistor need to have a connectivity for this 7. So along with these, I'll be having an additional circuitry of 2 resistors and a capacitor. This is what the additional circuitry we are going to do it. So this pin number 7, it should go to pin number 7, which is here. So that is the reason I said I can't directly write like this. So it will lead into a lot of confusions. Yeah, fine. Because somebody was unmute, so I just wanted to mute them. So this should go to pin number 7. This junction should go to pin number 6 and 5. This should go to ground. This should go to VCC. Then for pin number 5, we need to have a capacitor, and the other end of the capacitor should go to ground. This is how you need to have a circuit. But here it is doesn't look nice. You can just refer to this which has been written. So try to write like this only for better understanding. So this 6 what's been written is this pin number. This 2 what's been written is this pin number. Both 6 and 2 shorted together and given to the capacitor. So here it's been the pin number 7 here. Okay. This junction is pin number 7. Please write down that it's not been written here. So this is 8 and the 5 is not shown here. So here you need to have a capacitor. That pin number 5 should have a capacitor connected to that. That is how it is. Now we'll understand the working of this 555 timer. Sorry, a stable multivibrator. So the potential across this is a VCC. Whenever I applied this, I need to know what is the working. So initially I consider there is no voltage across the capacitor, means 0 voltage. When 0 voltage across the capacitor, what is the potential across 6 and 2? It is 0. When this is 0, you are both. So even the positive terminal is having 0, negative is having 2/3 of VCC. Negative is having 0, positive is having 1/3 of VCC. So here what will happen? The output here is 1. Here the output is 0. Is this clear? Yeah. So here 0. So here you'll have 1, 0. 0, 1 here for S and R. What is the output? It is reset. Reset, Q is 0, Q bar is 1. Q bar is 1, the output will be high. How much we are going to get our output? Our output will be like this. It is high. So it is approximately equal to 5 volts. So whenever the capacitor, so initially the voltage across the capacitor is 0, due to which the voltage across the inverting comparator is high. The output across the non-inverting comparator is 0. Because of this, the output will force to high. So our output is high. This Q is 0 now. So this Q is 0. This transistor is off. Once this transistor is off, now gradually because of this potential, this capacitor gets charging through this path R1, R2. So this is the charging path. Through this path the capacitor starts charging. So once it starts charging, the potential across this will gradually increase, correct? So our output is high, the potential across that will gradually increase. So in this waveform you can't see the first part is missing here. So it should start from 0. So from 0 onwards it started gradually increasing the potential. How long it increases? So if it reaches 1/3, will there be any changes here? If it reaches 1/3, no changes. As soon as this reaches completely 1/3, right, both are equal, so this output is 0. Here no change, this is smaller than this, so it will be 0. 0, 0, output retains same state, so no change across the output. So even if it is reaching 1/3 of this, so there is no change, it's keep charging, that capacitor starts charging continuous, right? So now this potential, if it reaches 2/3, So once it exactly reaches 2/3, again no changes, because 2/3 both of this 0 here. So here it is 2/3 negative, so 0 here, no change. So exactly 2/3, there is no change. Slightly more than 2/3 of VCC, what will happen now? So this potential is slightly higher than this. Then it will force our output to 1. So when the non-inverting comparator output is 1, but here it is still 0, because this potential is keep on increasing than this. So it is 0. 1, 0 across S and R will force us our output to set. So Q will be 1, Q bar will be 0. Once the voltage across the capacitor has been reached 2/3 of VCC, slightly higher. We couldn't notice that slightly higher. Once it is slightly higher than this, our output has been forced to 0. So our output has been forced to 0 because it is set. Q is 1 now. This Q is 1. This transistor is on now. Once this transistor is on, the capacitor starts discharging through this. So now our output forces to 0. Capacitor starts discharging. How long it discharge? Now the potential across this will keep on reducing. Again the potential across this will keep on reducing. How long it retains? Because as soon as it becomes 2/3, again you know it is 0 here, it is 0 here, 0, 0, no change. So the changes will occur only when the voltage across the capacitor exceeds this 2/3. So it will make our discharge transistor on and it will force our output to low once it reaches 2/3. Then it keeps continuing discharge. How long? Once it reaches slightly lesser than 1/3. So in this terminal, if it is slightly lesser than 1/3, this output will force to 1. This output still 0. So if this potential is lesser than this, it is 0. So 0, 1, it is reset. So reset, our Q will be off, Q bar will be high. Is this point is clear? Only 2 things you need to remember. Is it clear? Yeah. So majorly you should focus on voltage across the capacitor. I just repeat again. Voltage across the capacitor initially is 0. When it is 0, the voltage across these terminals are 0. It will force the comparator output to 0, 0. Sorry. Yeah, it will force the comparator output to high. Because here it is 0. So 1 here, 0, 1, it is reset. It will force our comparator to high. Discharge transistor is open. When the charge across the capacitor gradually increases, once it reaches little higher than 2/3, till then no changes. So I'll not be talking if it is 0, 0 what will happen, if it is 1/3 what will happen. So that is the reason. So 0 across this, output of the second comparator is 1, output of the first comparator is 0. It reset the flip-flop. So discharge transistor is open, our output forces to high. Next, it keep on charging through this path. Once the potential across this exceeds or little higher than 2/3, it will make the non-inverting comparator output high, inverting comparator output low. So it will set the flip-flop. So once it is set, discharge transistor on, it will force our output to low. Once the discharge transistor on, the capacitor starts discharging through this R2, through this discharge transistor. So the potential across this will gradually keep reducing. How long it reduces? Slightly lower than 1/3. Once it becomes slightly lower than 1/3, the output of this will be high and this will be 0. So then reset. Reset, discharge transistor will be open, it will force our output to high. So this keeps continuing. So output will change to VCC to 0. It will keep changing like this based on the potential across the capacitor. If it is 1/3, it will charge. If it is 2/3, it will stop and it will discharge. So 1/3 it will charge. If it is 2/3, it will discharge. Like this, it will keep oscillating. That is why it is called as an free running oscillator. Astable multivibrator is another name, you can call it as a free running oscillator. Any doubts in this, you can ask me now. You need to know the internal circuit of the 555, additional circuit what you are going to add with the 555, and here is like with a block diagram. So here it's not been disclosed any internal details, just how you are going to do the circuit connections. This is fine enough. Any doubts? Fine. The voltage across this capacitor you are going to measure, that is your VC. Voltage across the terminal 3, it is your output. This is what you are going to measure it. So why we need to monitor the voltage across the capacitor here? What is the necessity of monitoring the voltage across the capacitor? No answer. Voltage across the capacitor, based on that only your states in the oscillator, multivibrator is changing. If it is 1/3, it will start increasing. If it is 2/3, it will start reducing. So that is the reason we need to measure this voltage across the capacitor and what is the respective output. Don't write the waveform like this, two separate. Try to include this along with this. Okay. So in the exam or in the test, it will be asked once you get the waveform, you have to measure what is the trigger, like what is the trigger voltage, what is the threshold voltage you are getting, what is your V out you are getting, and what is the duty cycle you are getting. So the question is, I think I have not opened that document. I'll just read out the problem statement. So the problem statement is you have to design a 555 timer for 3 different duty cycles. So duty cycle greater than 50%, lesser than 50%, and equal to 50%. And the same has to be simulated as well. So you have to do the hardware and you have to do the software. 2 problems, but designing 3 different problems you have to do it. So design an astable multivibrator circuit for 3 cases of duty cycle, 50%, less than 50%, and greater than 50% using a 555 timer IC. Simulate the same for any one duty cycle. Any one problem you can simulate it. So now you have understood the working of the 555 timer, but now I need to design this. How I can start designing this? So I know charging path is through this R1, R2 will be used for the charging of this capacitor. Discharge only through R2 and the discharge transistor, right? Only R2 will be used in the discharge. So charging time is nothing but your on time. Discharge time is nothing but your off time. So the formula for this, you take down this formula. T on is equal to, you can just write down one more number. T on is equal to 0.693 R1 plus R2 divided by, R1 plus R2 into C. R1 is this, R2 is this into C. That is the charging time. Discharge time 0.693 R2 into C. This is what the formula. So what is the duty cycle? Duty cycle, it will be specified 50%, less than 50%, greater than 50%. The same circuit cannot hold good for any of the duty cycle. This circuit will work fine only for the duty cycle greater than 50%. I'll tell you why it is. Okay. This is clear. These are the 2 formulas for on time and off time. Using this, you need to compute what is R1, what is R2 and C. When there are 3 unknowns with 2 expression, can we compute? Yes or no? It is not possible. Yes, it is not possible. 3 unknowns with 2 expression is not possible. 3 unknowns with 3 different expressions, definitely you can do it. Since it is not possible, what we do is, we'll consider this where there are 2 unknowns. One of this will be assumed and the second one can be computed. So we have assumed the capacitor as 0.1 microfarad. So with this assumption, compute R2. Whether T is known for us? Yes, the frequency and duty cycle will be given. So one more point in this question. So this will be specified by the examiner. If it is a test, it will be specified by the lab in charge. So for the given frequency and for the given duty cycle, you need to compute. So you cannot do it for any of the value whatever you feel it. So if they specify 1 kilohertz, you have to do it for 1 kilohertz. If they specify 1.5, do it for that. 2, 3, 4, any frequency whatever they've given. And duty cycle, this formula and this circuit will hold good only for above 50%. You can just write down somewhere, this is for above 50% duty cycle. So if it is below a different circuit, small modification, I'll let you know that. Is this point is clear? Okay. If frequency is 1 kilohertz, what is the time? 1 divided by F, that is 1 millisecond. So if the time is known for us, the duty cycle is 60%. The definition for the duty cycle is T on by T. So T on by T, so it is given 60% here. So T on is equal to D into T. D is 60%, so 0.6 into T is 1 millisecond. So T on is 0.6 milliseconds. So you can compute T off. T off is equal to T minus T on. So you computed T off is 0.4 milliseconds, T on is 0.6 milliseconds. So with this, and we'll assume C, then I can able to compute R2. R2 is equal to T off divided by 0.69 into C. So T off is 0.4 milliseconds, C is 0.1 microfarads, micro in the sense 10 power minus 6. So with this you get the value as 5.8 kilo ohms. R2 is 5.8 kilo ohms. Now R2 is known, C is known. Substitute in the equation 1, we can compute R1. So that's what has been done. T on divided by 0.69 into C. This in the left hand side. Now if I pass on to the right hand side, minus R2. So with that you get this answer. So R2 is 5.8 kilo ohms. R1 is 2.89 kilo ohms. Any doubts in this, you can ask me. Okay. So now you can take this screenshot, or if it is available, you can write down this formula and do it. Probably the formula what I said is 0.693. If I add one more digit, I think there will be small changes with this results. You will not be getting the same results here. Okay. You have to do it as an homework for 65%, 1 kilohertz, 75%, 2 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz with 60%. Like that, some 3-4 values you have to do the design part, compute what is your R1, R2, because you will be assuming your C. You can just assume C as 0.1 microfarad. So only R1, R2 will change. Do that computation for different frequency and duty cycle. So once you do this, you can able to realize the circuit as it is, and you can able to note down the output. But if I'm doing this on the real hardware components, the circuit is fine enough, I can just do it. The same circuit, I want to simulate it, you need an additional thing across the output. You can't just extract output across pin number 3 directly. You need to have a load resistance connected to this. So you write down that load resistance of 1 kilo ohms. So you can extract the output across that load resistance. That is an additional thing you require it for the extracting or simulating this problem in the PSpice. So with that, it's complete with if it is above 50%, what is the changes. Now you have to answer to my question. If it is 50%, how I can design. Just observe this equations. Okay. Charging is through 0.69 R1 plus R2 into C. Discharging, that is off time, 0.69 R2 into C. So, will I be getting a square wave? What type of waveform I'll be getting it with this? Anybody can answer to this question. Square wave. What's the meaning of a square wave? So square, you know meaning, right? Square. It should be equal, no? Yeah, square, all the sides are equal, correct? Square, if I'm calling it with a wave, on time and off time should be equal, only then it can be called as a square wave. If on time is something, off time is something, I can't call that as a square wave. So here it's very clearly known. On time depends on R1 plus R2 into C. Off time depends only on R2 into C. Obviously this is smaller, correct? Correct, no? And we have also computed here. T on is 0.6 milliseconds, T off is 0.4 milliseconds. So with this it's very clearly known on time is greater than the off time. When on time is greater, because the formula for the duty cycle is T on by total time. 0.6 divided by 1 millisecond. So you're going to get the duty cycle above 50%, right? If T on is 0.5, T is 1, then you're going to get 50%. So T on is 0.5 in the sense, obviously T off should also be 0.5. When both T on and T off should be 0.5, then charging can't be like R1 plus R2 and discharging can't be like R2. It should be with the same. Got this point? Charging and discharging path should be same, or else it should be with equal amount of resistance. So what I can do, I can't change my circuit. Okay, it is required R1, R2 and a capacitor. What the change I do is, I will restrict charging is only with R1, discharging is only with R2, because R2 is been connected for the discharge transistor. How I can restrict this? Charging only with R1, discharge only with R2. How I can do this? Anybody can think over. How you can make charging only with R1, discharge only with R2. What is the additional thing you can add on so that you can able to make it? None of you get the answer for it? Fine. So I want to restrict that. It should not go to this path. So charging with this R1 and then through this C. Right? If I want to make like this, charging with this R1 and then I should take a separate path and go to C, then this path resistance should be very small than this. Then obviously it will choose that path. Charging with R1. Is that possible? You know the basics, which path the current will choose. When there is a less resistance path, it will choose that, right? So now if I have one more path with this, and that will be having very small resistance compared to this R2, then it will choose that path and the charging can take place. So at the same time, the charging is fine. If I have a very small resistance path, I can make this charging through R1 and this small resistance along with that charging. Discharging, I should do only with this. Then I don't require this additional one which I've connected. Discharge only with this. Then what can I make it? So at that time, this should be open. So it should be short circuit when charging. It should be open circuit when discharging. So what I can do now is I can have a diode. diode, PN diode, like P in the first, N here. So charging through this, so it will be forward bias and charging can take place. Discharging, this positive potential connected to the N type of the material. So open circuit, discharge only with this. That is what the change I can make it in order to work this as a different path for charging and discharging, or only R1 computes for charging, R2 contributes for discharging. At that time I could able to design it for 50%. When R1 and R2 both are equal, it is 50%. If R1 is smaller than R2, then it is lesser than 50%. So that is an additional circuit is required. Theoretically these things will work fine, but practically it will not work like that, because as soon as you connect a diode and you provide the potential we just discussed in the morning class, it's not that zero, correct? It's not directly can be written as a short circuit. There will be some potential so required in order to make the diode work. That is, if it is a silicon diode, it is required 0.7 volts. Till then the diode will be off. But once it is open circuit, it is not that zero voltage, so zero resistance. So there will be a high resistance. Theoretically that is what the assumption, but practically there will be small changes. I'll just open the the manual. I'll just share with you the circuit. Please don't refer this manual for the 555 timer diagram, because there is some error in it. So there is some error in it. It's not the proper circuit. So copy the circuit which I have given, okay? Yeah, this we have discussed. Did I told this? So for this terminal 5, we need to have an additional capacitor of 0.01 microfarad in order to make this work like an R stable or monostable. For both you need to have this additional component along with the 555. Yeah, this is what I said. If you want to simulate this, you need to have this load resistance connected for the terminal 3. Then you can extract the output across this terminal 3 and voltage across the capacitor with this voltage marker. This is how you can do it. You can take down this circuit when you are doing the simulation. This is how the output will be. Initially it takes some time to reach with the 1/3 of VCC. Later it will switch over between 1/3 and 2/3. So you can observe this. So only in the first cycle, so you will be having 30% extra, but rest all it will be same. You also need to measure the trigger point, how much voltage it is, threshold point, how much voltage it is, and what is the frequency. Many students were doing wrong computation while measuring the frequency. Be careful here. When you are measuring the frequency, you have to consider one complete cycle. You can take anywhere. Suppose if I am considering from this red line, this is I, right? This complete, this I and this low till here to here you have to measure, that is total time. On time, this one. Off time, this one. So here you have to measure on time, off time, total T. So you can able to find out what is the frequency, what is the duty cycle, all those things. How to simulate, that will be taught in the labs. Oh, in this it's not been written for all. I thought it is here. Fine. So I'll just write down the circuit here only. So take down this, okay. So this has to be connected to VCC. This is pin number 8 and 4, and this is so this is pin number 1, this is pin number 5, 3 is the output. So output you already know, you can't directly extract. You can connect and load resistance 1 kilo ohms, and you can able to measure the voltage across this. If it is simulation, if it is hardware, directly you can extract across this. So this is your R1, R2 and C. This has been connected to 2 and 6, this for 7, this been connected with this VCC. So this is how you did it for more than 50% duty cycle. Now additional thing, you need to have a diode which is being connected across this. So now the charging will be through this R1 diode for this capacitor. So discharging will be through this R2 and the discharge transistor inside. So the diode what we have used is an silicon diode. So silicon diode, the potential, the cutoff voltage is 0.7 volts. So till then it will not be on. Any doubts in this? Fine. Now what is the expression to design for this now? What is the T on, T off now? T on 0.693 R1. I'll not write it R1, I'll just write it R1 dash and C. The reason why I write this R1 dash C, because this R1 is not directly can be used now. This R1 and this R1 dash is different. That is the reason I have written it as R1 dash. T off will be 0.693 R2 C. Why R2 here? Discharge is only with R2. Why R1 dash instead of writing R1? Because this is also contribute some resistance. So the charging path is this R1 plus this diode resistance. That is what the charging path. Discharging path only R2. Diode characteristics you know. There is very less space. I'll just write it here. So till this 0.7 volts, there will not be any change. And then once it becomes, it will be like short circuit. Correct? So I can't consider that as a zero resistance. So you have to take this consideration. So when you want to compute the resistance of the diode, so it is because of this. This is the volts, this is the current. So delta V by delta I is the resistance of the diode, or I'll write it as R0 or RD. So that is how you can consider the resistance of the diode. So with this computation, there will be some resistance here. It's not be considered as zero resistance. If it is a reverse bias later it will be like this, right? It can't be considered as infinite. It will be in terms of some mega ohms. So till this diode was open till this 0.7, there will be some resistance, and only after this there will be some resistance. Correct? Very small resistance. So here it will be in terms of some ohms, but here it will be little more. So that's the reason you have to consider the slope and compute the resistance of the diode. So with this, the diode resistance has been assumed as 1.4 kilo ohms. So this diode resistance has been assumed as 1.4 kilo ohms. So now you have to consider this R1 dash, what I have written there is R1 dash is equal to R1 plus RD. RD is already computed 1.4 kilo ohms. Whatever you will compute R1 dash here, subtract this 1.4 kilo ohms in that. So whatever the resistance you get it, you can use it for this R1. Did you get my point? Can you all take down this? Because it is not there in the manual, it's better you take down this. If the duty cycle has been given 50%, then how you are going to do the computation? What if the duty cycle is less than 50%? Will there be any changes? Please answer no. Think over and just answer. Will there be any changes if it is less than 50%? Are you able to understand what I am asking? Yeah. Why no answer? See, the formula what we have written, this is for on time, means charging time. 0.693, earlier it was R1 plus R2 into C. Now only with this R1. So that's the reason I have written R1 dash into C. What is this R1 dash is? R1 plus RD. The resistance of the diode plus this resistance total together is this R1 dash. T off is 0.693 into R2. Only this R2 is working when it is discharging. Once you compute this, the same formula will holds good if it is less than 50% or if it is 50%. What is the change here is the on time and off time values will change. If it is 50% suppose. So the question is, everybody have to do the computation now. Frequency 1 kilohertz, duty cycle 50%. So what is your on time now? And F is 1 kilohertz, T is 1 millisecond, right? Should respond. T is 1 milliseconds, then T on and T off, both will be equal to 0.5 millisecond. So you get here 0.5 millisecond, 0.5 millisecond. You need not to compute both of this, you just compute one. So the same value for another one. But here since it is R1 dash, you have to use the computed value plus the diode resistance. You subtract this diode resistance with this computed value, so you will get R1. So when you are choosing, you choose that R1 and diode resistance, sorry, R2 to do the circuit. So now if I am asking for below 50%, same formula, there is no change. Same circuit, no change in the circuit. What is the change here is on time. On time will be smaller now, it can't be 0.5 milliseconds based on whatever the duty cycle it's been given. Suppose if it is 30%, 30% means you compute what is the on time, what is the off time, substitute there, do the computation. Can you all do this? Yeah, now only you do it. Okay. Take down this question. Frequency 1 kilohertz, duty cycle 50%, compute R2, C and R1, tell me what are the values. Then frequency duty cycle 30%, same frequency 1 kilohertz. Tell me what are the values of the components. So the values for the 50% duty cycle and 1 kilohertz frequency, it is R2 is 7.2 kilo ohms, R1 is also 7.2 kilo ohms, but not R1. R1 dash is 7.2 kilo ohms, and you have to subtract 1.4 kilo ohms resistance of the diode. So then you'll be getting 5.8. So for the less than 50%, that is for 30% duty cycle and for 1 kilohertz frequency. So R1 will be R2 will be 10 kilo ohms, R1 will be 4.32. R1 is 4.32, R1 dash. So if I want to compute R1 4.32 minus 1.4, you'll be getting 2.92 kilo ohms. This is what the values of the R1 and R2 for 30% duty cycle with 1 kilo ohms frequency, 1 kilohertz frequency. You have to work out for more values of frequency and duty cycle for above 50% and also for below 50%. For 50% duty cycle with a different frequency, you can work out at least for 2 to 3, and it's mandate. All these you have to do it in the lab. With this, I'll wind up today's session. Thank you.